This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
This weekend, two of the National League's best go head-to-head in Busch Stadium when the Dodgers face the Cardinals. Seager will touch them all. Saturday at 6 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Presented by Harley-Davidson.
Good day. Coming up on the First Take podcast with Max and the coach. The Patriots will be without Tom Brady for the first 4 games of the season. What does this mean for New England? Meanwhile, Heat President Pat Riley regretting not doing more to keep Dwayne Wade on South Beach in Georgia. Coach Kirby Smart joining the desk. The First Take podcast starts right now in the new era. First Take with Max Kellerman kicks off 1 week from today. Can't wait for that. Monday, July 25th. Stay tuned. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome into another week of First Take. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I'm Molly Karam, and I'm here with this dynamic duo. Jonathan Coachman, Coach Max Bredos. You guys know them from SportsCenter at night. They have their own radio show. They're very busy, and they're taking no shows off because you'll be here with us for 3 days.
I'm trying to figure out how we agree to do 3 days of First Take and then do SportsCenter at the same time. But that's what
you're hustlers.
We are hustlers.
You are.
Like the music.
I don't want to. I can't claim what you did because I took some time off. My mom was in town, so I had some vacation days. So I came in here. Afterwards, we'll have a little beach time or whatever it is. But so I'll be a little more refreshed than you. But I respect your sacrifice.
Been QT with Mom.
So we're going to come in. I'm going to do the beat down on my partner, which normally I don't do, but I will today.
Thanks for
and then you can
off.
go back to the beach. No problem. No problem.
And
we're excited to be on with you.
Yeah,
we are excited to be on with you.
All this splendor.
We're gonna have fun, right? Who's better than us? And we got this new desk today. We're ready to work. You want to do it, gentlemen?
Let's go.
Okay,
Let's go.
So coming up, our college coaches tour. It starts with the SEC. Georgia's new head man, Kirby Smart. He'll be here. We'll ask him if his star running back, Nick Chubb, is the next Todd Gurley, and much more. But we are going to start with Tom Brady. So this just in. 2 days after the Second Court of Appeals rejected his appeal, Tom Brady wrote on Facebook Friday that he will accept his 4-game suspension and won't take his fight to the Supreme Court. Quote, I'm very grateful for the overwhelming support I've received from Mr. Kraft, the Kraft family, Coach Belichick, my coaches and teammates, the NFLPA, my agents, my loving family, and most of all, our fans. It has been a challenging 18 months, and I've made the difficult decision to no longer proceed with the legal process. I'm going to work hard to be the best player I can be for the New England Patriots, and I look forward to having the opportunity to return to the field this fall. Coach, I don't know where we are now. It's like date 5:50.
I thought we were going to have fun today. We're starting with the Deflategate.
We are, because it's almost over. What's your takeaway?
Well, I want to go to the middle of that quote right there and say it's been a challenging 18 months for all of us.
Yes.
I mean, we're done. That's why we had to start with this today, because it broke Friday afternoon as people were starting to head into the weekend. And with all due respect to Kirby Smart, who will be on later, this was a smart move for Tom Brady. Because let's face it, if you would have told Patriot fans last year that you could have a run deep into the playoffs, it's going to be an AFC championship, you lose late, and then you've got another year for Jimmy Garoppolo to practice, be around you, and get better, then I'm okay with that. And I think at some point, if the sky is blue and you look at it and it's blue, then you got to say that's it. And I think for Tom Brady, this was a point where he says to everybody, let's just step away. Let's give Jimmy Garoppolo a full 6-8 weeks to get ready, and then I'll step back in after 4 games, and we'll get into what we expect, but this was a smart move for him to make.
By the grace of Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, you are now the man.
Jimmy G.
Look, I want to start on a good foot. Little off topic here. Nate Ebner, safety of the Patriots, made the Rio Olympics team for rugby. I want to applaud that. That's great news.
What a shock.
I played rugby for 15 years. Really excited. That's some good news around Patriots camp. He's going to come back a better football player. You'll see. I also want to say thank you, Tom Brady. Thank you, Tom, for accepting this so that we can move on. Because we've wanted to move on, because this has left a mark for all of us to cover over 18 months. He didn't admit any guilt. He made the statement, says it's time to move on. So he handled it beautifully. As for Deflategate and how it's affected us, I think one thing we take away from this, and it's pretty evident, the Patriots aren't very popular in the National Football League or in the court of public opinion or in the big picture of things. In Boston, it's huge. They love them, they take care of them, and they support them. Should you get a 4-game suspension for deflating footballs if you did? No. You shouldn't do that. But the folks, it is clear with Robert Kraft, NFL owners and others were out to get them. They were tired of the Patriots having a set of rules, and they came for them. And this is what this is all about, and this is why this is put down on Tom Brady and the $1 million as well for the Patriots.
You made a good point.
One?
Which is rare for you.
Nate Ebner?
No, I don't even know who that is.
He's my man.
Take away from the day. Drop knowledge on us.
Apparently so. Again, rare.
I'll make sure to Google him.
So I wrote down the numbers from Tom Brady last year. 4,770 yards, 36 touchdowns. And I'm pretty sure that every single football that he threw last year was checked, double-checked, and triple-checked. So to say that this was a validated suspension, absolutely not. It's crazy. But we're so far past that. I think there's a lot of smart people at the NFL. I think there's a lot of smart people that work for the Patriots. At some point, this stopped being about deflated footballs and started being about who had, the biggest dog in the fight, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so at this point, the NFL has got to be saying behind closed doors a little bit, we won. We got what we needed to get.
Absolutely.
And I also think that going forward in the next CBA, you're never going to see the principal hand out the suspensions and the punishments, and then you go right back into the principal's office again to get the same exact. Because why would Roger Goodell change at this point what he already said down 18 months ago? So I think a lot of smart people stopped being smart and started being silly. And so finally, after 18 months, we can say it's over, enough, let's move on.
You have to respect the NFL for digging their heels in and saying, no, we're going to take this till the end. And it would have been a terrible look for Tom Brady if he pushed forward and said, let's take it to the Supreme Court. Because people in America are saying, we have so many problems right now, we don't want the Supreme Court tied up with something like this. So it was very important that they nipped it here. But that says, Roger Goodell, look, we're going to go the full distance with this. We have the higher ground. We are in the power position. We'll win. They did win.
Molly, the NFL is your wheelhouse.
Yes.
Or are you surprised after 18 months that Tom Brady decided to say, I'm walking away?
I kind of thought he was going to fight all the way to the end. I'm not going to lie.
Wow. Really?
I did. And I thought he was going to keep. But here's why. I think he's the ultimate competitor. And I thought this was about clearing his name, more about that and for his family. But I think he probably reached the point that he said, what's the point of this? This isn't going to go any further. And now I'm just hurting my team in terms of being a distraction. And this allows Jimmy Garoppolo. He's in a better situation this year than last year because now he'll have a full training camp. So I think it's a smart decision. But in terms of his legacy, you guys, I know we talked about everybody outside of New England, obviously not a huge fan of the Patriots, the legacy that, they've created there, the dynasty. What is his legacy now with this whole Deflategate? Does this stain him at all?
I don't think it changes him at all. I mean, one thing you have to understand, you also do UFC like I do, as Max does. And in baseball, too, it has been proven the last 15 years, people do not care about steroids, about performance-enhancing drugs. They want to be entertained. And that's what Tom Brady has done. I don't think there's anybody out there, other than people that just don't like the Patriots, that really believe that Tom Brady cheated to win football games. It's just a dumb theory that a little error here and there could do that. So, to me, this does nothing to his legacy. In fact, if he comes back this year and leads the team to the playoffs and maybe to the Super Bowl, I think it enhances his legacy more than anything.
That would be something. Look, I roll my eyes a lot when I hear the Patriots Nation, Boston Nation defending Tom Brady. Look, he didn't deserve this thrown at him the way it was. It's not a 4-game suspension. But when I hear the defense and I keep going, I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. But I think he's been vindicated a bit about the way he's handled it because people were all holding their breath. Here he goes. He's going to push it further. He's pushed it all last year. He's going to do it again. He didn't. He didn't admit guilt, and he said to himself, all right, here we are. I've accepted my punishment. Let's move forward. Kind of what Robert Kraft did a year earlier by saying that and kind of backfired him in the big picture. So I think Tom Brady's legacy is intact. I think if he performs the way he does, which you have to imagine, chomping at the bit for 4 weeks, the way he is, a competitor he is, it could just make him a very dangerous human being when he comes back in the AFC, where I think the Patriots are right at the top of the favorites.
When he gets mad, Tom Brady is not a guy that you want to have.
Incredible Hulk?
Yeah, he's not going to stop at 4 touchdown passes a game. We've seen he'll go 5, 6, 7. They don't care.
He wanted to send a message. Was that they had the Colts game last year? He goes, this is they did. And message sent.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
So I think we're all surprised by the decision because we thought he would have continued to fight, but I think we're all pleased, right?
Yes.
Now,
relieved.
Yes.
It's a weight has been taken. I can feel it coming in here.
Me too.
This place goes insane with that.
I'm excited to see what Jimmy Garoppolo has.
I am too, and we always try to take a positive away from it. Working with this guy every single day, I'm a heel at my core. I like to get.
I've softened that a bit for you a little bit. I've seen
yeah, maybe so a little bit. Yeah. So I try to look at the positive.
Yep.
There are a couple of people in this whole scenario that are very happy. The lawyers.
Giselle.
Tom Brady's lawyers.
I always like thinking about Giselle.
Tom Brady's lawyers for what they did last year. I mean, if I was a high-profile celebrity or athlete, I'd be going to
how much money
all those guys.
18 months of legal fees?
They're like, keep it coming. Are you sure?
They don't care.
You want to repeat this? I'm available.
They got it done.
No doubt.
All right, so let's talk about that first quarter of the season. Obviously, the Patriots not going to have Tom Brady now. They start the season September 11th at Arizona. That is a tough one. Then they're at home against the Dolphins, Texans, and Bills in weeks 2 through 4. Max, what do you expect from the Pats with Brady out 4 games? What's this record going to look like?
I expect them to do well. I'm a big believer in the Patriots are a machine. Tom Brady has always been there. He's been the constant. He has been the man who has pushed this machine to new heights. But who is the bigger star here? Is it Tom Brady, Bill Belichick? We might get a clearer answer to that because Belichick has always had a system with this team. And again, this does not apply to Tom Brady, but if a guy starts to break down and the skills aren't where they are, he moves, he makes the adjustment, gets a new guy in there, and the machine keeps rolling where they were able to win a Super Bowl just 2 seasons ago. I'm really curious to see how effective Jimmy Garoppolo is. One thing about Tom Brady, all due respect to Julian Edelman, I love him as a receiver. Gronkowski is the best at what he does. But LeGarrette Blount is a guy that many people could have had as a running back. Danny Amendola, not an elite receiver. Tom Brady puts up great numbers with this group. If Jimmy Garoppolo could do that, if he can go 3-1, 4-0, let's say 1,300 yards passing, 10 touchdowns in 4 games.
You're throwing out a lot of numbers right there.
I know.
If
he can match those, and I think there's a shot. We don't know about Jimmy Garoppolo, but he can match those things because of the way the Patriot system is.
All right, we know that New England plays very well at home, right? So I looked through their entire schedule because I believe this to be true, that at some point Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft sat down in a room, and they evaluated this whole situation. And they looked at it and said,
they're smart.
They're very smart. And they said, Miami, he'll take our chances. Houston, no question. Brock Osweiler doesn't scare me. And then you got Buffalo. Can't even name their quarterback at this point because they got 2 or 3 that played last year.
Rex Ryan's talking big talk, though.
You're making my point.
We got to give him a little respect.
Okay, but is he your lockdown going to come in to Foxborough and score 30 to beat the Patriots? I don't think so. I'm a big believer in home field advantage in the NFL. And I was screaming from the rooftops last year that having home field was going to decide the Super Bowl, and it did. I was right. Denver was not going to win in Foxborough. They get the home field advantage. Look what they did. It wasn't pretty, but look what they did. So now you got the Patriots, and they're looking at it going, you know what, we're okay. And then the rest of their schedule is very easy, with the exception of they play Seattle at home. Then they go to San Francisco. We don't know how good they're going to be. But playing the NFC West and then the rest of their schedule from the AFC, I think that's it. They said, you know what, this is no big deal.
As good as they are at home, what if week 1 at Arizona, one of the 5 best teams in the NFL last season? What if Garoppolo comes out and delivers the goods as a road team and sets it up? He gets a win. They win by 2 touchdowns. What does that say about the Patriots and where they are without Tom Brady? I'd say that this is the team to beat unquestionably.
There's no question. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, they did not draft him as a second-round draft pick just to have him sit on the bench and trade him away like they've done so many other quarterbacks because Tom Brady has played since 2000. I think they drafted him as the heir apparent to Tom Brady. Now, did they think Tom Brady was going to play into his 40s? I doubt it. But he's playing at a high level, almost 5,000 yards last year. So I think this is also an audition.
He's under contract to 2017. So he needs to use this if he wants to get a big payday. Otherwise, he's not going to be a Patriot after that. Yeah.
I want to take it a step further. I don't know about you guys. I haven't seen much of Jimmy Garoppolo. He went to Eastern Illinois. He hasn't started an NFL game. I think he's thrown 31 passes in the NFL. What if he goes in and he tears it up? He crushes. We've seen this before in New England.
Full-time starter?
I think that would be the best case scenario. But there is no way. Just like when Tom Brady.
What does it take to dethrone Brady?
It takes him retiring with a capital R.
I don't know.
We're going to play one word early, retiring. Here's the thing. Remember last year when they were facing this and we had these discussions on if the 4-game suspension sticks, then what? Well, this is then what? we're at the then what stage. And I think they hope he kills it. Why would they not hope that he goes out there and just crushes it and plays well? From everything we've been told and seen, this guy is the next Tony Romo coming from the same area. And that's why you draft a guy like
Jimmy
this.
G's got the great hair. I like it. I'll say this. As we point out, Bill Belichick's very adaptable, and he knows what's best for his team. And if he sees a guy that could win, I know I get shelved as sacrilege, but if you're 38-year-old Tom Brady and you're getting towards 40, at some point it's going to break down. Whether it's this season.
Stop it.
But you don't let him go. You've got to give Jimmy Garoppolo. If he looks like the guy who's your heir apparent, you've got to give him his moment.
Whoa. So
I'm not saying he starts.
So I'm hearing this correctly. If he goes out to what she just said, and let's say he throws 10 touchdowns in the first 4 weeks, then you're going to sit Tom Brady in week 5.
I didn't say that.
You just said you got to give him his moment.
You got to give him his moment for those 4 games. But Bill Belichick will know.
Whose other moment is it going to be?
Bill Belichick will know about this team and what works best immediately. He is a genius with that team, and he might say, okay, Tom Brady, he'll get back here. The rope is shorter. The rope is shorter. Look, Jimmy Garoppolo with that, if he sets in that situation,
crushed.
It's a young man's game.
Crushed.
What do you think their record's going to be with Garoppolo starting the first 4?
I think it's going to be 2-2. I really do.
No. If we were going to go full season.
Full season?
Remember Matt Castle did 11-5
Am I throwing you off with you guys not having the schedule in front of you?
No. I looked up the schedule. I have the schedule right in front of me, and it's not very difficult. It's not because you got 6 games within your division, and I don't think any of those 3 teams, they all 3 have quarterback issues.
Yeah, Jets don't even have one.
They're to get. Look,
they get the AFC North though. That could be perilous. Cincy, Pittsburgh.
So the Ravens aren't going to be very good.
At Broncos.
Steelers are going to be pretty good, and then the Bengals. To me, that's not a difficult schedule for a team that is a perennial #1 seed. It's supposed to be the hardest schedule. That's the way it's set up. But because of who they play outside of their conference, I don't think it's a very difficult schedule at all.
I think Jimmy Garoppolo. I just learned to spell correctly. It's 1 R, 2 P's, 2 L's. I think he goes 2-2. I think he goes 2-2, and I think the Patriots have a pretty modest record. I think playing those teams from the AFC North and the NFC West, Seattle, the Rams, who I think are going to be much improved, and Arizona, that'll complicate things. I think you're maybe looking at 10-6, but I think 10-6 is good enough to do some damage in the AFC.
Good enough to win their division.
Yeah, and to lock up their division.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, some news out of the UFC. Former UFC heavyweight champion Brock Lesnar has been notified of a potential violation of the anti-doping policy from an out-of-competition drug test administered June 28th. Now, Lesnar beat Mark Hunt by decision at UFC 200 in Las Vegas last weekend, handily winning his first MMA fight in nearly 5 years. The original headline of the card was scrapped 3 days before the event. We all know this, when John Bones Jones tested positive for a banned substance. Coach, how bad of a look is this for the UFC? Right after the Jones stuff, now we have the Lesnar.
Well, here's the thing. That I spent 7 days in Las Vegas for UFC 200.
Yeah, we know.
You killed the coverage, by the way. You did a fantastic job.
Why would you tell him that? Now we have to hear for another 7 days.
I thought I did too. Thank you. I've never experienced in my life a situation where every single day, every half of every single day, there was something else that was happening. There's a reason that on ESPN.com we had almost 10 million page views. That's a ridiculous number. I was in bed the night that John Jones, the potential, possible doping violation. And let's be clear, just so we're not just crushing some of these guys, that the USADA book is about this thick. With that being said, you have to be smart enough to do 2 things. Whatever you put into your body, you have to check it. And it's as easy as making a phone call and saying, this is what I am taking. I also believe that John Jones did not intentionally take something. I believe that Brock Lesnar, because of some of the things that he said, he wouldn't be dumb enough to say these things and then get popped for a PED or a doping violation, supplement, whatever it is. And all these things are wrapped into the same world. It doesn't matter if it's this or if it's this. It's all under the same thing, and you face a 2-year suspension from USADA. Brock Lesnar said, because when he took his shirt off, he was as cut as I've ever seen him, and I'm sitting there going, wow, this dude looks incredible. And he was asked about that. And he's like, listen, you got to understand, I'm just a jacked white dude. Live with it. That was a quote.
Some of us have built that way, and look, that's the way it is. I know.
I understand. So, to answer your question, it's a horrible look. because this was the biggest show in UFC history. It was supposed to be McGregor-Diaz, then John Jones and Cormier, and then it ended up being the ladies. And I thought because of the intrigue that it still came off as a success. But on the heels of that, and Brock Lesnar came out in a statement to the AP, and he said, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Chael Sonnen, who's my partner doing the UFC, said to me, USADA has never been wrong. If you get popped, it is 100% of the time they are accurate, and it is something that you have violated. So the look is awful. As we go forward, how do you get the hype machine going again? I have no idea. Because Brock Lesnar, I've never experienced anything like it. He was the star of stars. He was the guy everybody wanted to talk to. He was engaging. He was entertaining. He had personality. He had everything that you would want. He was the best part of that card. The main event card, that was the most compelling fight to see.
There's
no question.
Yeah.
And he really surprised a lot of people. And coming out of that win over Mark Hunt, people were saying, wait a second, maybe this guy can be the dude we thought he was going to be 5 years ago when he had that bad illness. But now with this and facing a possible suspension, maybe it will be one time and out, and the UFC has to go back to the drawing board.
This has nothing to do with John Jones or Brock Lesnar. This is just my theory on mixed martial arts and the importance of squashing out PEDs. And UFC is now partnered with USADA, so that's the right steps. But when we deal with PEDs in any sport, this isn't baseball where you're hitting a baseball. This isn't football where you're throwing or catching. This is you are hitting another human being. So the use of PEDs could be potentially life-threatening in some cases. I will bring up Michael Page of Bellator 158 Saturday, fractured the skull of Cyborg Santos. It was a gruesome injury. If there was any foul play involved, a gruesome injury can become even worse. So that's why this is so important that they are able to clean up their sport, and they're making lots of steps. With regards to UFC 200, it was clear to me, and they were dealt some really bad cards, starting off with Conor McGregor and then obviously John Jones. But they were hell-bent on making this the biggest card ever, and I get it. But at some point, you have to realize that you are bigger than that card. So when they made the changes, when they brought in Anderson Silva to fight in Daniel Cormier, which that was an awful fight to watch. It was a bad matchup. I did not enjoy it at all. I enjoyed the weekend of the cards. Thursday, Friday were great. Saturday all day was good. The main event was not what I wanted to see from UFC. But when they are hell-bent on making this the biggest card ever, and then a day later we get the news of the sale, it makes me scratch my head a little bit about what was the reason they wanted to make this so big. And it felt like a blaze of glory moment for UFC. They are so good. 202 is going to be off the charts, and we could see that. But the reason I was bringing this up about Brock Lesnar is they fast-tracked him, it would appear, to get him on that card. They needed something like that to make it as big as it was, and he got there. And that included an USADA exemption, which left me scratching my head as well. And when I hear this afterwards, I wonder how we got from point A to point B. But UFC 200, it was always going to be big, but it has this dark cloud around it because of how it got to that point.
I have to believe, and maybe I'm being naive, maybe it's being too close to it, in full disclosure, but I've got to believe that Brock Lesnar, who, and I know this for a fact, this was being discussed back in March. So even if Conor McGregor was on the card and nothing would have changed, Brock Lesnar still would have been on the card. Okay? That's fact.
And it's great to have on the card. That's a big name and a super fight that everyone wants to see.
And we know in the UFC or the WWE or the NFL, whatever it is, you got to have star power. You got to make people want to pay $79.99 to watch a night of fights. I actually agree with you.
It's a pay-per-view business. You're right. They got to do that.
When it comes to the $4 billion sale, I believe that the Fertittas, who I think want to get into the NFL and own the Raiders if they come to Vegas.
And they got a pocket full of money.
I think they got sick and tired of losing their main events, of losing their fighters, of dealing with this kind of stuff. Dana White looked at me as we were getting ready to do the interview on Saturday pre-fight, because we just had it all day. So he comes up, he just looked exhausted. And he was like, this has been the worst week of my career. Now, I don't know about you two, but if somebody, and we found out later, they had just signed that afternoon, if somebody handed me a check,
maybe it wasn't so bad,
$360 million, I'd have been like.
But that shows you how much he cares, Dana, how invested he is.
I think there's no question. There's no question. I think he loves being Dana White and running it more than he loves the money. because he would have walked out with the Fertitas. He wouldn't have stuck around.
Well, that's why he's
UFC.
in the middle of every main event with his
Yeah,
face right there, so you can see data between the
And I
big
agree
guys.
with you on the Fertitas in the NFL, because with their sons playing at Bishop Gorman, and that's really their number one in terms of football as their favorite sport there. But I want to talk about the landscape. Obviously, it's changing. We give them props for buying it. What did they buy it for? $2 million, and then 15
$2 million.
years later selling
Great
it for
business.
$4 billion.
Great business on their part.
And I want to give props for Anderson Silva for stepping in, obviously, basically off the street and coming and taking this fight, at least so there was a big name. But how does the landscape look now? Like, what is next for John Jones and Daniel Cormier?
You know what was crazy is that at ringside, octagon side, whatever you want to call it, Conor McGregor walked in that night. And ironically, I looked down and I said, he was supposed to be the main event. And then he got bounced out. He got bounced out because he would not come to Vegas to do a press conference and promote the fight. So 2 days previous, he was in Vegas to do a press conference and promote the fight at 202. He now knows, because he's a smart dude, he's a smart guy, that he is, quote-unquote, the chosen one. After what he witnessed from the second row, Jose Aldo wins, he goes over me and you. And McGregor looks at him and goes, hey, if it means this, then I'm good with it. That's the landscape of the UFC. The problem they're going to have is you've got to have, at least to me, on a pay-per-view card, 2 or 3 deep of megastars, which is why 200 was so attractive. But going forward, unless you can teach these guys, maybe they should hire me. Because this is one of the jobs I had in the WWE. Well, I'm saying, as far as this is concerned,
do a video job interview right now.
You have got to teach these fighters how to be entertaining in addition to fighting well in the octagon.
That's fair, because that's what Conor McGregor does.
Yeah, but
he does both.
Yes.
And that's what he sells.
What he does. That's him natural. You don't have these personalities.
But the trash talking does add to his appeal.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And these other guys don't know how to do it.
Right.
And you got to learn how to do it.
And to your point about the star power, it is critical in a pay-per-view model. If you're going to dish out that money, you want to see these big stars. And they have 3 breakthrough stars that people would stop to watch at any time. It's John Jones, it's Conor McGregor, it's Ronda Rousey. We don't know where Ronda Rousey is. She would set any pay-per-view ablaze with her presence. We don't know if she is. We don't know if she's going to fight. Nothing has been announced. John Jones, we don't know if he comes back from this. And Conor McGregor, if he loses to Nate Diaz at 202, that star is not shining as bright as well. He can fall back on Jose Aldo. I would love to see it. You would love to see it. You would love to see it.
Yeah.
Would America, would the people that normally won't get a pay-per-view get it?
Fans,
they would not, because they say, I just saw this guy lose twice. So they're this close to losing a lot of star power, which is required. More stars will come around. I'm sure of it. The next guy we haven't talked about is waiting in the wings. But right now, with the top 3, the main food groups of UFC, it's very dicey right now.
That's the downside of the UFC, is that if you want to me, it's a great sport to have a dominant champion. Because you got both sides of the fence covered. You got people who want to see him lose. Then you got people that want to see him continue this long win streak. That's why the John Jones thing was so devastating. You got 13 wins in a row. He had seemingly gotten past everything. He sat in front of all of us, and he said, I'm seeing this fight as a way to close the door on all the negativity. He had this very, according to her, popular publicist that apparently they're making a movie of, and Jennifer Aniston is playing her, to kind of navigate him.
Me. I want to see that.
Maybe. And so now as you start to go into the future, we thought he would be that guy. He's only 27 years old. There is going to be a place for John Jones when he comes back, if it is a 2-year suspension or a year suspension. But when he comes back, you don't think all eyes are going to be on this dude? He can't take one step off that track, or else he's going to be right back where he was. To me, they're in a really hard spot here unless they develop more stars, or George St. Pierre, who says, hey, I'm ready to come back.
Oh, I missed GSP. That's why I was so excited. Even though Silva's past his prime, those were the guys. Scott Evans, all those guys. So many. It's a changing of the guard are retiring in terms of, I know the new names are up and coming, but exactly what you're saying, the big stars.
I'm all right for a senior circuit. If you get these guys to fight each other, we never had those super fights, GSP and Silva. I'm okay with that if the matchup is right between those guys. But if you get these guys, Emelianenko, the Russian who beat everyone, Fedor Emelianenko, you bring him in and you fight somebody, I would like to see that, as long as it's kind of, you're not dealing one of the top contenders who probably lose to at this point. You bring that as a second tier fight. I'm in.
Let's bring it all back, though. So what is the impact now of John Jones? Obviously, the almost nearly 2-year layoff. Now he came here, is on the set. We're all rooting for him to come back. This happens, sets him back. Brock Lesnar, while hopeful, he dominates. This sets him back. So selling the UFC for the $4 billion. How much of an impact are these PEDs going to have on the future here?
It's not the Fertitta's problem anymore.
Yeah,
that's one thing we can say.
I think this also plays into what they have promised and what Dana White has talked about. It absolutely plays a big part. Luke Rockhold, former champion, came out and said, this is a good thing. We need to clean up the sport. You got to understand, people think the fighters are all training in one team. They're not. They have their separate teams. They do their own things. Then they come in and fight for one night. So, to me, until you've got the coaches and you've got the teams around him, because Dana White came out and he said, I haven't spoken to John Jones. I will not speak to John Jones. And he should have got rid of all the people around him a long time ago. Until the fighters do that, I think we're going to continue to see them try to skirt the issue or be smart enough to write down what you're taking, because I don't believe everybody tries to cheat. I think they try new things to give you more energy. They try new things to try and, make the training sessions longer.
Or if it's for recovery.
Or for recovery. And then when it's on the list of banned substances, well, then all of a sudden they look like they're this big cheater. And I don't believe that to be true. But it's not a good look. And for John Jones, for Brock Lesnar, wow, what that could have been. And now they cost themselves in future earnings millions.
Dana White, I hope he's not taking Brock Lesnar's calls. I hope he's angry when everything comes on the back end of that. But the other thing you have to mention, I'll say it here quickly, is I don't know how you do this, but the bigger issue is the big issue is the PEDs. But the big issue affecting these cards is guys getting injured in training. And I don't know how you curtail that. You say, they have to go all out in training.
You have to go all out.
But it's been one after another, after another, after another. And maybe they have to look at it closely. Maybe there's an answer that they can resolve it, because that would be a huge headache that they could dodge. But I don't know how you do it.
I think if Ronda Rousey comes back this year, that could be.
Better hurry up.
That'd be huge. Ronda's on the phone with her right now. Like, Ronda, come on, get us back. All right. UFC 202, can I get picks? I know it's Sewer. Can you not make picks because you cover?
Yeah,
I can. Absolutely.
What do you think, McGregor or Diaz?
I'm actually not going because the very next day is SummerSlam, where Brock is supposed to be at. So
wow, you're right in the middle of it.
So so I plan on being at SummerSlam. Well, I'm not saying that.
Appreciate you making time for us, though.
You said it. I will say this. I think that Conor McGregor has learned his lesson, and I believe in his greatness. And he has been a lot more humble this time around, but he's also starting to be that Conor McGregor again. I think that he's going to get the job done this time, because to me, he is the guy that has to carry the UFC, and he knows it.
I think I respect Conor McGregor by sticking to his guns. I want to go fight at 170, but it's a mistake. That is Nate Diaz's comfort zone.
Stockton,
I think Nate Diaz is going to beat him up really good.
Stand up.
Stockton, the toughest town in America, maybe the world, and that is part of it. But I think he's going to lay a licking on it, because Conor McGregor is second guessing what he's got to do to be successful. And Nate Diaz says, I'm here, I just fight, and I think it's going to be a very similar situation without maybe the good start from Conor McGregor.
We'll see.
I'm Andy Katz from ESPN, along with my co-host Rick Klein of ABC News. On the latest edition of Capital Games, we're going to discuss how much athletes should speak out to affect change. Go to the ESPN app and click on the headphone icon to download the podcast.
Let's take a look at some of the storylines for Georgia this season. Nick Chubb returns after suffering a season-ending knee injury last October. Before the injury, Chubb trailed only Leonard Fournette in rush yards per game and yards per rush. In the SEC, he is a special talent. For the first time since 2000, there will be a head coach other than Mark Richt at Georgia. Richt fired after the regular season finale and is now the head coach at Miami. Richt was 145-51 with the Bulldogs and won 2 SEC titles. So in comes Kirby Smart in 8 seasons as Alabama's defensive coordinator. Oh, he only won 4 national championships. Smart is going back to his alma mater, where he played defensive back in the late 90s, and we now welcome him into First Take. Kirby, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks
Congratulations. Homecoming for you. Pretty cool, right? Program you played at. You are the running backs coach. Yep. What does this homecoming and opportunity mean for you personally?
Well, it's special, first of all, for my family, my wife and my kids, to get to go back to Athens. We're really excited to be there. And, the city of Athens has welcomed us and made us feel really warm and fuzzy inside. They have 93,000 come out to the spring games. It's been awesome. So we're excited about the first game.
Coach, as Molly pointed out, winning 4 national titles at Alabama is a big reason to stay there, many other good reasons to stay there, and you've been on the short list of a lot of coaching jobs that have opened up between your tenure there to now when you've taken Georgia. How hard was it for you to wait How hard was it you wait to become the head man?
It's not hard when you're winning, you know, and you're having fun, you're having success. So some opportunities came along, but to be honest with you, I wanted to be patient and get the right job. I've seen a lot of my friends get some tough jobs. So I think it's always important that you're patient, and it paid off for me to get a top 10 job in the country like UGA.
I don't know that anybody's ever referred to you as warm and fuzzy inside, so it's kind of cool to hear you say that. But you mentioned the spring game, and I'm a high-energy guy, and I like when people come in, they're excited, and they want other people to be excited. You had almost 100,000 people, and when you came out and said that, people were like, he's crazy to get that many. You did it. You had Ludacris come in. It was an incredible day. How special was that for you after just 3 months to have that kind of response?
I think the biggest thing was that the hunger and passion of the fans, they wanted it. They wanted to come. It was a perfect afternoon, got great weather. We had a late start thanks to Espn, so it was kind of the perfect storm, and all of the folks came out. It just shows how hungry they are for success at the University of Georgia. Really, really cool.
Coach, I want to talk about, oh, sorry to cut you off there, Max, about the quarterback situation, though. You returned Grayson Lambert. He was the leading passer there. And you're getting a really highly touted freshman in Jacob Eason. I think he's the 13th overall player, #1 quarterback against ESPN's 300. Very exciting. Yeah. How do you see that quarterback competition playing out?
Well, we want to get the best guy. We got a third guy, too, Bryce Ramsey, that's really talented as well. So those three guys are competing for the job. They want to affect our team in a positive way. We want to make sure we give each one an opportunity to lead the team in fall camp so that we can find out who the best guy for the job is. But ultimately, it's going to go to the guy who gives us the best chance to win that opener.
Coach, what is the timetable for that decision? Because last couple seasons, we've seen a lot of coaches take that into the season where there's two guys playing. Do you apply to that approach? Do you think it's okay, or is there a cutoff time where you're going to say you're the guy, you take the reins?
I don't think we ever cut it off, because I think it's on a continuum where we're always trying to get the best guy, and that can change throughout the year. But certainly, sooner than later, we want to have one guy lead the team. We have scrimmages in fall camp. We'll have 2 scrimmages. We would like to say after the second scrimmage, we're going to narrow this thing down and figure out who it is. But obviously, that's guessing right now.
You're in such a unique situation that you go from a powerhouse SEC school to another powerhouse SEC school. You're clearly very close with Nick Saban. How does that relationship move forward now that you're both going to be going against each other?
Well, I don't ever look at it as I'm going against anything. That's a daunting task in itself. I mean, I would say that we bump into each other on the road in recruiting a lot more than we do actually working and developing our programs. My 100% concern is with the University of Georgia. His is with the University of Alabama. Those two don't cross paths very often anyway. It's not a bitter rivalry anyway, so it's a situation where I'm focused on making sure I do the best thing to get our players ready for the University of North Carolina opener.
Speaking of that, Nick Saban, known as the biggest, hardest worker in the business, how are you going to gauge him with, how do you outwork Nick Saban as one guy? And one thing he also did was the scheduling. What is your plan for scheduling? He's opening up with USC. He opens up with this team. How do you think that's going to fall out for Georgia when that time comes?
I think when it comes to scheduling now with the college football playoff, they've opened it up to play big games. You know, these fans, they want to see big games. They want to see, go outside your conference and play a big-time opponent. That doesn't scare us at the University of Georgia. I think it's good for the game. I think anytime you can go play a big game, it helps recruiting. It helps your players figure out where we are before we play a conference schedule, and you can recover from it now because you've got the ability to recover. If you win your conference, you're going to have a pretty good opportunity, and that's the most important thing.
Beautiful.
Let's bring up the schedule. We have it here. Georgia went 10-3 last year, not too shabby at all. What's your expectation going in this season?
I'm not big. You guys love expectations. That's the word of the day. They're not going to call it the car wash anymore. They're going to call it the expectation wash. Boom. Because everybody talks about expectations.
Good job to ask the questions.
No. I understand. But, you know, for us, I really want our kids to focus on getting better every day, getting ready for the first game, and not really be about the expectations. Because, I mean, we can't control that. There's only so many things we can control, and we got to put all our energy and emotion and psychological energy, everything into being the best we can be, and I don't know how that's going to play out.
That word emotion, you're a high-energy coach, and has that always been your style, and how do you think that's going to allow your players at Georgia now to perhaps change their style of play?
You know, I think that your players take on somewhat of a personality of the coach, and I am a high-energy guy. I don't plan on toning that part down. I want every practice to be high energy. I want to get the most out of them. I think there'll be times in the game when you got to taper that. You got to give a guy a pat on the butt and say, it's all right. You gave up a play. You got to go back out there and play. You got to do what's best for each kid in each situation. But I am an emotional person. I'm an energetic person, so I want to see that out on the field with the players.
Off the field, Les Miles was supposed to be here. Obviously, the tragedies at Baton Rouge did not allow that. It's a difficult time now for a coach because the kids are affected, black kids, white kids affected about how things are changing in the United States. How do you communicate? How do you discuss these issues with them to make sure that they are focused on football, but they also have their concerns answered?
Well, first thing you do is you address the issues. You know, we as a staff have talked about it, and we're trying to put some things in place for our kids to vent, to talk about it, to have educated conversation about it. I think that's really important. You know, we have a leadership group at University of Georgia, and speaking to those guys, we're going to have a meeting actually tomorrow where we sit down and talk, and we share ideas, and some guys get to talk and openly have good conversation, which I think is healthy, and I think you should do that. It makes it a lot easier to deal with.
You got this guy, Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, got hurt Tennessee first play. Yeah, he's all right in the Heisman conversation. We can't wait to see him play. You must be chomping at the bit to work with him and him to get back out there, right?
I'm so excited for Nick. First of all, I knew him when I recruited Georgia from Alabama. I got to know the kid. Unfortunately, we didn't get him at the University of Alabama, but fortunately, he did go to Georgia, where now I inherited a really talented back. And he's a kid who's worked so hard to get back. He wants people to count on him. He leads by example. He pushes other guys. And, you know, we want him to be 100% the first game. Will he be? I don't know that yet. But I know this. He is working hard. He's going out doing a lot of taekwondo, a lot of different things to get back.
Love it. Doing a little of the mixed martial arts, everything. We cannot wait to see him. Coach, again, congratulations on the new job. Best of luck this season. We will be watching. And thank you for answering all our questions here today, all throughout ESPN.
Even the expectations.
There you go.
Even the expectations. We appreciate you, Coach. A day after the Bulls made the signing of Dwayne Wade official, Heat President Pat Riley says that he wishes he would have done more to keep the three-time NBA champ in South Beach.
You are what you think, and you are your thoughts, and it's my responsibility to sort of make that happen. I didn't make it happen, and Dwayne left. And so the buck really stops here. I'm not trying to fall on the sword for anybody. I have great regret that I didn't put myself in the middle of it and immerse myself totally in the middle of it, and that's my job.
So Pat Riley regrets not being able to bring Dwayne Wade back to South Beach. You are from Miami originally, Max. You buying this?
I just don't understand it. I don't understand saying I should have been there. It's a negotiation. You've got to be in the middle of that. He was also saying things like it floored me that didn't work out. What's going on here? This is a biggest negotiation, potentially the franchise's history, the biggest star they have ever had, a guy who's won the championships and brought them in there. Pat Riley is the next big star in Miami for what he's done, coaching them to a championship and being the man behind the scene that has brought a pair of championships to the Heat. So he deserves a lot of respect and a lot of leeway with his decisions. I would have liked to have heard him say, look, it doesn't have to be complete honesty, but at least laced with a little more honesty. Go, look, this, in the finances we're in a situation where we didn't have the money to offer that. We were a little bit apart. We had 2 years, $40 million on the table. He took, I'm not going to say $7 million is nothing, but it was, they were closer than we initially thought. But I don't understand why he's a little more upfront about that. We know what we know what you're doing, Pat Riley, and we respect what you're doing, and you're really good at it. And if the Heat have to take a step back and let Dwayne Wade go somewhere else, go to his hometown, so be it. But I think with things that we were saying, that it doesn't make sense because you knew what you were doing during the whole process.
There are certain people in sports that you never think of how old they are. Like Coach K. Coach K has always been that guy.
Looks the exact same.
Looks the exact same.
They're all OGs.
This is the first time that I've ever looked at Pat Riley and thought, he looks old.
He looks 71 old now, but he has another jet black.
He still looks smooth.
He does. He doesn't look 71 at all, but he looks older than we used to see.
He still looks like a boss.
He does. The problem is that maybe time has passed the boss by.
Oh!
Because here's the deal. Last time I checked, you still have to have a reason for fans to come to your games. And we know in Miami, they don't like to show up on time.
They don't show up when they're winning.
And now they may not show up at all. Are you going to show up to watch Goran Dragic? Hassan Whiteside? I mean, come on.
Very sexy.
This was the biggest mistake that he's ever made in his career. And he's had a great career. L.A., New York, Miami. And now you let the one guy who brought your franchise 3 NBA titles over $3 or $4 million a year walk out the door? That's such a mistake, especially when you go through a scenario where the salary cap gets raised by that much money. I understand that you look back. There's a lot of things I would love to change in my path. I can't do it. I can't sit up here and say, I wish I could have done that, and I could. He could have. And this is just him kind of saying to his fans, listen, trust in me because I understand what I did. Or, I guess more importantly, I understand what I did not do. And what he did not do is keep the greatest player that the franchise has ever known.
They should have said that. He goes, trust me, and they should trust him by making this decision. I just wish he said that was the decision I made, not telling us about regrets afterward.
You know, but you brought up a really interesting point there. Okay. You said this is a huge mistake. What about the future, though? What about money to think about, you know, up-and-coming players and thinking about the franchise moving forward as Dwayne Wade's getting older?
Great point. And I think that's what Max was alluding to, that if he's being honest, he should have sat there and said, okay, I wish he was still here. But here's the bottom line. If we're going to move forward and we're going to get younger and we're going to get better, I had to let him go. Right. I should have gotten traveled to the ends of the earth to keep him. And that brings up another point in how teams pursue players. If I'm Dwayne Wade, I know he's been very classy during this scenario. But at some point, your feelings get hurt because your own family didn't think enough of you to call you on vacation or travel to where you were. And you look at the Golden State Warriors on July 4th weekend, every star they had was on a jet all the way to the Hamptons from the West Coast. That's what you have to do to show your family that you want somebody to be a part of it. To me, Dwayne Wade is the one guy that you throw all that out the window because he still has some left, too. He's not a bad player.
He had a good year, but he's breaking down a lot. I don't think it was a mistake for the Heat. And granted, with more money, you're not going to be able to compete with these great
Are they going to be a contender next year?
No.
But okay, then what do you got to do? Sell tickets?
Okay, but there's this one subtext to this where they're saying, okay, you got to make him whole because he's taking these discounts. I don't see why that holds true. You don't have to make him whole and give him this money. It was great that he did that, but today is today. You're committing this money. And we saw with Kobe Bryant, granted the salary cap's a lot different, the Lakers committing a lot of money to him, and it just didn't work out. And I thought Dwayne Wade has some issues with the health. And to say he went pretty clean last season suggests to me that that won't be the case this year. I think it's good that they went their separate ways.
I'm not buying what he's saying. I think if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense, and he's thinking about the future. And that's exactly what Pat Riley's doing. But I do get where he had to kind of, quote, lie to the media out of respect for Dwayne Wade and what he did for this organization and bringing the chips like you just talked about. He can't just sit up there and I think, tell us the truth, even though we want to hear it. It's out of respect. It's out of respect for his guy.
He had to. He had to. Everybody that's from Miami that works here says that it's like Dan Marino and Dwayne Wade right there. So
Dan Marino's still number one. Sorry, I have my number 13 Marino jersey still.
And guess what? At some point, they've got to be in a position to put the Dwayne Wade trophy in front of the arena. And if it would have stayed the way that it was, and Pat Riley didn't say this, then it's still very contentious, at least in the public eye, and you're not at a point that you can call D. Wade the minute he retires and say, hey, listen, next season, after whatever game, we're going to be doing the statue for you outside of the arena.
Make them whole again.
How much better are the Bulls, if any, now that they've gotten Wade?
They're an interesting team. I like them. Are they going to compete with the Cavaliers? And I just say the Cavaliers because that is it in the Eastern Conference. No, but they'll be a playoff team.
They're absolutely
going to be fun to watch.
They're better than they were last year, and I love the fact that I'm not.
It may not be the best matchup with those three guys, with Rondo and that, but I think it'll be good.
And by the way, we got to educate a little bit. It's Rajon Rondo.
Did I say?
No, you.
That's
did,
what I just said. The last name.
But I know a lot of people.
That's one of those tough ones where half the people say Rajon. Okay, it's Rajon.
Thank you. It's Rajon Rondo.
What's your other baby, Marcus Mariota?
Yeah, it's like Mar, like bar. It's my pet peeve.
I have another one. Is it Mario Williams or Mario Williams? Because that one I don't know either. That's another tough one. I've just adopted Mario at this point, but I used to go Mario.
Let's go with that because I'm not 100% sure. I've been latched to my two. But to your question, if Jimmy Butler, you think he's happy that Derrick Rose is gone? I think he is. I think you're going to see motivation from all these players that have switched teams because sometimes a change of scenery can be a good thing for a lot of people. I think for D. Rose it is. I think for Rondo it is. I think for D. Wade, this was the one spot, the one place that he could go and be rejuvenated and have a really great couple of years.
A homecoming.
I buy into the homecoming. I think that just puts a lot of wind in your sails, and I think it's going to help Dwight Howard going to Atlanta. I think because of all the issues he's had to deal with.
You had to bring this.
Yeah, had to bring it in Atlanta. I think we'll see a different Dwight Howard because he's home.
You love Atlanta.
No, everybody. Anybody that watches
it's not going to turn into an all-star superstar player. It'll be better.
Shout out to my sister. She lived there 27 years. But I have this theory. It's called the Atlanta syndrome. And for whatever reason, when teams in Atlanta, they just don't win. I don't care who it is. And I'm not buying the Dwight Howard.
So Atlanta has a curse in your eyes.
Yes.
Can you imagine your doctor going, I have some bad news. You got Atlanta City.
Look at every team. Look at every team down the list. And what I say is true. And Dwight Howard with the tears, he was laughing. He was laughing.
Oh, that was sure we all made notice that he was crying.
Right?
We didn't realize he was crying. And at first I was buying it. I was like, you know what? He's coming home. It's emotional. And then when I thought about it again, we talked about it on the show, and he was like, excuse me, I'm crying. And I was like, oh, I wouldn't realize you're crying unless you made mention of it.
We got to
give the guy a break. We've been so hard on him.
No, I don't.
I'm not giving him a break. I just think it'll be good for him.
I said to Max on a radio show, I said, if he opts out, Houston better not even think about re-upping him at $23 million a year. The only team dumber than the Rockets for signing him that deal is the Hawks, because they're paying him $23 million a year for 3 years.
The going rate.
$79 million for Dwight Howard.
Going rate for a guy like that.
Stop it.
Must be nice. Before we go to break, Miami a playoff team now without Wade?
No. But I think that's what they want, partially. I think they want to start getting the new blood in there.
First hour, first take in the books. Coach, how you feeling so far?
Well, I knew when we came in today that I would feel like this was kind of like a second home, but I'm just not feeling the love.
Really?
Something missing?
There's something missing. Something that I thought when I came that you would take care of for us, but after the first hour, I don't know what that might be.
Can't put your finger on it.
We do an award-winning game that everybody...
Award-winning!
Award-winning. Still looking for a sponsor, by the way. Well, that's open to anyone who's
looking for that word.
We are. So one word is a little game we like to play, and if we could play it the rest of the show,
sure,
I think that'd be awesome.
Sure, I'd love to. I'm sorry that I haven't done a good job. Tried to welcome you guys. Sorry I dropped the ball. I'm trying to do my best. But listen, one word it is. Can we start?
We can start. I didn't mean to insult you in any way, shape, or form.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Do it.
And we start with Johnny Manziel. It's been a busy year for Johnny, and it has nothing to do with his play on the field, unfortunately. So let's recap. First, he's released by the Browns. Then he was indicted on domestic violence charges, and 3 weeks ago suspended 4 games for violating the league's drug policy. Now, in a story published Sunday in the Washington Post, Johnny Manziel had this to say about how he's handling the difficult year. Quote, stay with me. I'm actually doing well. I have good friends around me supporting what I do, and I try to support them in what they want to do. I'm not saying I'm never drinking again, but for now, just mostly being healthy. I've got a killer gym in my house, and I can spend time working out. I'm interested in doing a lot of different things in my life, including football, but right now, I'm just exploring options and waiting to see what the future holds. Coach, one word, let's do it, on Manziel's statement.
My one word is enough, as in enough already.
High five for that word.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. There was a time on this show when every single day, whether fans wanted to talk about it or not, Tim Tebow was a topic.
Yeah.
And you got to the point you're like, there's nothing else to talk about. What I would like to do is talk about what he put into that statement, because publicists apparently are all the rage now. For John Jones, who we met in Las Vegas, and this came through a publicist to the Washington Post. If you know that you have a drinking problem, and your father has said you have a drinking problem, and your coaches and lawyers have said you have a drinking problem, if you're going to address it, there's only one thing that you can say. I'm done. It's over. I understand cold turkey. You can't say, I'm thinking about stopping. But I also said this, because when I was in Vegas in March, you don't go on radio and TV and blab about who you see. But there were a couple of nights we went out to the nightclub, and you walk in, and who do you see?
Johnny
Manziel. Hanging out with Scott Disick
Stop it.
Keeping Up with Kardashian
that's
fame.
Quite a pair.
Combo.
It was. BFFs. Everywhere they went. Those two
That's
guys.
a good time
That's
right
A-list. A-list.
It was. And there were a lot of people that they had a big
Lord.
suite.
Maybe they were paid to like those clubs. They go, come to the MGM Grand or come to Wet Republic to see Scott Disick and Johnny Manziel.
Please do not insult the hotel where I stay every time I go by saying that Manziel and Disick would be there. So I will say this. He did not look at the time like anybody that thought he had a problem, an issue, or somebody that thought he should stop. This was the worst statement you could possibly have, and then to say, I got a killer gym in my house. Great.
Who cares?
So you just got overpaid for doing nothing in Cleveland. We know that. I just thought this was awful. Whoever his publicist is, start over, but at least admit something. Admit something.
Yes. We haven't had enough of this story. This has just opened up a new can of worms with Johnny Manziel. So my one word is paper, as in that statement is, I want to get this right. I had to write it down. It's not worth the paper it's written on. Look, I'm just going to reiterate what you said. The line there that will throw you off, I'm not saying I'm never drinking again. I have had friends who've gone to rehab. I have had friends who have dabbled in pharmaceuticals and have had real problems. And the ones who got better are the ones that said, enough. And the reason we know Johnny Manziel, if drinking or anything is taking something away that you love. And that's what it's doing to Johnny Manziel. I've seen him play football. He loves playing football. He says he wants to continue things in his life, including football. He loves football. This is preventing him from doing that in his life. So you have to look at it as a problem. It is. I don't know how much he drinks or how little. Reports are he might be going at it a lot, and he might be doing, I don't know. But if it's an issue, and we heard it from his father, you have to come out clean and say, it's over. I'm going to change it. This is the decision I made. Robert Smith, our former colleague here, who calls himself an alcoholic still, he says it's something you deal with all the time, but you have to address the problems. You can't say, well, I'll do it some of the times, or, well, I don't want to, you know what, you have to complete clarity. You almost have to say, this is what I did. I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. And to get it out in the open so we know what you're dealing with. This does nothing for us.
My one word, enough, is not just about we're done talking about him. It's what he has to say to himself.
Yep.
He has to say enough.
Gotcha.
It's all encompassing.
Yeah, thank you. It's all encompassing.
That was good. That's
a
powerful
creativity
word.
of one word. But he's also got to look, because I thought there was rumors of him going to Vegas and then going to a nightclub with a hat and a wig on, so people would not recognize him.
Yeah, he was in Coachella too. He was like in a photo of him.
At some point, when your buddies are around, because I guarantee you, if this was you, Max, or if it was me and you were my buddy, and we're in front of the mirror in our hotel room trying on wigs and trying on hats, at some point, I'd probably think to myself, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
So we can put a hole in another sentence here. I have good friends around me supporting what I do. Supporting.
That's what I was getting to.
I had issue with that line, supporting what I do, not football, partying.
That's exactly what they're
bad friends. They're bad friends. A good friend would be like, hey, what are you doing, Johnny?
And you're supporting what they're doing?
Do that in 20 years. Do that in 20 years. Play football, focus. You had a great season as the Browns. Everyone thought you would fail, and you played pretty well. Don't do this.
He can play. And what he needs to understand, that a lot of athletes need to understand, he was special. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. You're not like your buddies. You're not like the guys that are trying to figure out their lives at age 22 through 26. You are special. You got a $20 million first-round contract. That makes you different. So you can't act like they do. And you can't say that you can act like they do.
You can't have friends like that either, because friends that's what they're there. They're supposed to come up and say,
of course, and keep you out of those environments. Absolutely. You know they're tempting. There's one other thing that threw me off, too. I'm just exploring options, waiting to see what the future holds. Exploring options. If you're trying to have any shot, and this leads to my next question of getting back in the NFL, you're not exploring options. You're all football, whether it's a lie or not. Your PR person wants your focus is getting healthy and then getting on the football field. Which now I ask you, are we going to ever see him start an NFL game again or be in the NFL?
Not with this. Not what I'm saying. We definitely can rule out this year. It's not going to happen. He has to get well, and he has to get well before he does it. But reading that tells me we shall not see him in the NFL. Maybe he plays in the Arena League or in Canada, not in the NFL.
I would have taken that Arena League offer very, very seriously, because I think his game would be very conducive to the Arena League. And he also has the benefit of having all the money that he made, having a family. It's been well documented that is fairly wealthy. Mm-hmm. And so he can afford to take a year off. And we should not see or hear him. And I would love to him come back shredded in great shape, a solid 185 pounds, and come up next May or next June and request to meet with teams. Go in and sit down and say, listen, this is who I am. I made my mistakes. Give me a shot. But to answer your question, we will never, in my humble opinion, ever see Johnny Manziel on an active roster on a Sunday in the NFL ever again.
That's what I say.
Paper. He will not be receiving it from the NFL.
He will not be getting any paper. But go on sabbatical, grow a beard, go to Saskatchewan, play up there in the CFL, get clean, come back, a new man, all shredded.
We know all those leagues will do it.
That could use him, and that's the sad part too.
There's no question.
There's options.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to leave you with my one word. I'm going unaware.
I like it.
Unaware.
He seems like he is.
And that's what that statement tells me.
Is that for the publicist or for him?
It's for everybody. Just like enough, it's all encompassing. He is unaware.
Fly ball well struck center field. The wall at the track, and that one is gone. And Seager will touch them all.
This weekend, two of the National League's best go head-to-head in Busch Stadium when the Dodgers face the Cardinals.
Matt Carpenter showing off the juice.
The two are in the middle of the fight for the wild card, and every game is critical. The Dodgers and Cardinals, Saturday at 6 Eastern and Sunday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio, presented by Harley-Davidson.
Henrik Stenson held off Phil Mickelson to win the British Open on Sunday by shooting a final round 63. It was the lowest 72-hole score in major history and tied for the lowest final round by the winner of a major. Phil's 72-hole mark of 17 would have won every Open except for before 2016. Crushing. I guess that's my one word from yesterday. What is yours?
My one word is perfect. Not for Phil Mickelson. This is obviously demoralizing to be so good and fall second. Now, we'll hear from my good friend, the coach here shortly, who was very proud of the fact that he did not probably miss a minute of the Open Championship. I am not as big a golf fan, but I was lured into this. Conditions were pretty good there at Royal Troon. Aye, Royal Troon. Love saying it.
I love how you roll those R's. Jelly, I'm not going to lie.
Go get some nice scotch at the Irish Inn down at Royal Troon. All right, so they had a rough day on Friday, weather-wise, but you usually think of the Open Championship the most challenging, hard to play. And it still is, even though the conditions weren't that bad. And this guy was perfect. Mickelson was close to perfect. But in order to win this championship, you had to be perfect, which he was, holding him off. It's amazing to see. We had a duel in golf. I enjoy golf when there's like 20 guys at the top, and they go, let's go to the 15th hole to see who's there on the 16th. So, oh, it's so good. This was unique and exciting in its own right because these two guys just pulled away from the pack, and it was down to them. Final day, it could have gone haywire. Mickelson could have had some bad shots, or he could have surged ahead and he had a 3-4 hole lead. But it wasn't. They were nip and tuck all the way. And it was a perfect play for him. Also a double meaning here. Everyone thought Phil Mickelson had been the great story, and a lot of the lefty nation was tuning in to see him. But the story of Henrik Stenson, because of where he's come from and how hard and how good he's played and now won a major, is just as compelling. And I throw in the fact that he's from Sweden, and Sweden just had Zlatan retire from international. That's big. That's tough. They haven't had those great tennis players from Sweden like they used to have, like Stefan Edberg. It's been a dry rut. They've won some gold medals in Olympics and World Hockey Championships in that sport. But this is something that could really galvanize a country. Just like when Adam Scott won for Australia. So when I put it all together, perfect.
You did a really good job of filling your time right there.
Woo!
And saying absolutely nothing.
What?
I will say this. On Twitter today, a lot of people have been like, hey, is Coach going to make a wrestling reference at some point? Or because I always seem to try to fit it in. So here's my one word, and I'm going to say it like my good friend The Rock used to say it all the time. My one word is finally.
Close your eyes, too. You got to.
Well, that's how I used to do it. You know, you got to hear from the crowd. And that's what Henrik Stenson did yesterday. When he makes that putt on 18 to tie the all-time low round, he did it in style. And for a 40-year-old guy to go through what he's been through, and there's a laundry list of things. But I got in a Twitter war yesterday, if you can call it that. If you want to call it that.
Twitter wars, Coach.
No. Maybe I'll call it a Twitter discussion.
Okay,
discussion. And I said, as I'm watching it, this is the greatest duel day of golf that these two eyes have ever seen. Now, 1977, the famous duel in the sun. And I believe that I named yesterday on SportsCenter what this is going to be called for all time. Oh. And when you hear it, you better give me credit for it. I'm calling it the Tussle at Troon.
Say it.
Love it.
Scottish accent.
No, you say Tussle at Troon.
Tussle at Troon.
Oh, you got all the accents down.
I like Lefty and the Swede. How's that?
It's awful. So Jack Nicklaus on Facebook was part of that duel in the sun with Tom Watson back in 1977. Nicklaus shot a 66. They were tied going into the final round. Tom Watson shot a final round 65. It was amazing. So as these people on Twitter are trying to tell me, oh, the duel in the sun was way better, Jack Nicklaus, who was a part of it, said on Facebook, quote, "Our final round was really good, but theirs was even better." He went on to say, Stinson, he played one of the greatest rounds I have ever seen.
Perfect.
What made this so incredible and what made it the greatest day of golf I've ever witnessed, and anybody that knows me knows that I love Tiger Woods more than any other athlete on the planet.
A little disturbing.
Sometimes I admit that.
It's a little bit of a crush. That's okay.
It's okay.
I have girl crushes.
Thank you.
J-Lo, I love you.
See, the reason I love Tiger so much is he's given me more great Sundays than any other athlete, even Michael Jordan, than any other athlete has given me. But he never had a duel like this. He never had a situation where every single hole he had hit a great shot because another guy was hitting a great shot. And Henrik Stenson yesterday did not have a chance all the way up until the 18th hole to hit a bad shot. Yeah. He made a 51-foot putt that I believe will be the signature shot or putt of his career. He made 10 birdies in 18 holes. The numbers are staggering. 14 under par between two guys that are in the lead. Try playing this kind of golf when you have the pressure of being in the lead, and that makes it incredible. And you see the numbers now as we show them. It's one thing to do it when you're teeing off in the morning and you're 10 over par and you're trying to just get out of town. But to do it when all eyes are on you and you've got to do it and you're going for your first major, and to your point, it's very, very, very disappointing for Phil Mickelson. He could not have played any better. And he was very gracious because he understood he got beat yesterday by perhaps the greatest round of golf ever played.
It only takes one more guy, like all the other golfers that are out there, to fall off the back wheel. And it would have been a triumphant win, a 7, 8, 9 stroke win for Mickelson. Unfortunately, that one guy was having the round of his life, like Mickelson, because you've got to look at how far back everyone else was. These are the best.
Third was 6 under, to your point. Third was 6 under, a full 14 shots back of the leader, 11 shots back of Phil Mickelson. I think when Phil looks back at this, and he's been very candid, he wants to compete in the majors and compete well into his 50s. He just lost 20 pounds. He's in the best shape of his life. When he looks back at this is going to be the one round where everybody talks about Phil Mickelson, and it's the one round that he didn't win. I think in time, he'll be able to look at it as a great, great opportunity to be a part of golf history. As disappointing as it is.
It's got to be tough, though. I feel it. Because it's this close.
You
need one more guy and have an okay or decent round, not perfection or as good as you've ever seen it.
You brought up Tiger, and I want to go macro here. And since you guys have fully taken over, I'm going to use the word encouraging. Is the tussle and Troon encouraging for
what are you feeding to the? You're feeding the beast over here.
Sport of golf. Now that Tiger's left, and a lot of casual fans have as well.
My heart is full.
I love it.
Because of you.
Thank you.
My heart is full.
I'm trying.
Oh, boy.
You're doing an unbelievable
job. Trying to redeem myself from earlier in the show.
Oh, my gosh. I can't even remember that point of the show. Right now, golf's in a great state. And what those young guys who witnessed yesterday, and what we don't realize is that because they all share flights over there, a lot of them waited and they watched. So the Jordan Spieths, the Rory McIlroys, the Jason Days, the Ricky Fowlers, they wait. 6 of those guys shared a house. Spieth and Justin Thomas, all these guys shared a house and were sleeping on air mattresses because there are no places to stay where this course is. There's like 2 hotels. People stay in tents.
Don't share air mattresses when you're on the road?
I will take the extra 20-mile drive to not sleep on an air mattress, especially if you're a world-class athlete like these guys. Those things will
It's part of the allure of the Open Championship.
Bag and you're good.
But I think now you've got 5 or 6 guys that people will tune in to watch. And the reason it was so cool that Henrik Stenson won is because he's been so close. But you're about to see, he's going to be on every talk show. He's going to be on the Golf Channel, whatever. He's got a personality that most people do not realize how funny this dude is. It's kind of like having Max and the coach on First Take. People understood how great we are. now they really understand
my agent.
how great we are.
With regard, I hope so. I'm not as optimistic about the sport of golf as you are. I'm not. I like the story by Henrik Stenson, and I don't know if it's gonna draw fans in there. Tigers are unique.
Do you understand what you meant by macro?
Yes, I'm just talking about golf, the whole sport, and how good it's going to be. And I look, Jason Day, Rory McIlroy, all I'm hearing about them is complaining about not going to the Olympics. Come up and compete in a major. You got dusted like everybody else. Jordan Spieth, where are you? Where have you been?
You know,
what happened to 2015 Spieth?
You seem like you have something intelligent you want to say.
No, it's actually not that intelligent.
Oh, okay.
So tennis is my country club sport. Grew up playing tennis, but casual golf fan where I would watch if Tiger was playing.
Yeah.
So give me something. Who should I be really excited about moving forward?
I think
because you're clearly a golf aficionado. I just saw the passion, eyes light up.
I love it.
I thought it was UFC, NFL, and everything else.
It's so I'm so random here that the three things that I do other than SportsCenter, which is our bread and butter, is UFC, WWE, and golf. I love golf. I love playing it. I love talking about it. I love how hard it is to play. Mm-hmm. We're going to have another major in less than 2 weeks because of the Olympics. And to me, Jason Day is my guy.
Okay.
And he's understanding. You know, I talked about the fighters learning how to be entertaining. Mm-hmm. Golfers have got to do it, too. You can't be a machine and make people want to tune in. The reason people tune in for Tiger is because he made the spectacular look normal. That's what we saw yesterday. Yesterday was a glimpse of what can happen if two great golfers play at the top of their games at the same time. It was awesome. And I think as we go forward, you've got several players, and if they all get on the same page, you could see this type of day again, no pun intended.
Another guy skipping the Olympics. By the way,
on that note, I think we need to go to break. You just shut it down.
But if you want a big name for tennis, little Maxi Bredos took his first tennis lessons.
See what happens when you don't cut him off?
He might be the big name in tennis coming up. About 10, 15 years from now, look out for that.
I love it. Good sport.
See what happens when you don't cut him off?
I might have had this. I might have just unearthed
his 7-year-old son.
I might have just unearthed the next big American tennis star, and you heard it first here on First Take.
Great. I called dibs on interview. Despite being suspended the first 4 games this season, Tom Brady has the 5th best odds to win MVP according to offshore odds makers. The only players with better odds to win MVP are Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, and Ben Roethlisberger, and Andrew Luck. Coach, one word on Brady as an MVP candidate.
My one word is stretch. As in, it's going to be a stretch for him to do it in 12 games. But I will remind you, he's a 2-time league MVP. His numbers those 2 years, 2007, 4,800 yards, 50 touchdowns. That was that remarkable season that they should have gone undefeated, whatever. So, then 2010, 3,900 yards, 36 touchdowns. As he goes forward, if he has 12 games and all he does is average 3 touchdowns a game, which is very easy for him to do, because now he's got – you remember the time when he was the most dangerous was when he had 2 tight ends, and now he's got 2 tight ends again. Mm-hmm. And so he's got to be licking his chops that he's got another guy on the other side of the guy. Mm-hmm. And so now as he goes forward, he's going to come out of his 4-game suspension wanting to hit every stride. If I'm me, I'm betting the over on every game the Patriots play from week 5 to week 9 or 10 because he's going to want to score 40. He's going to show 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think it's a stretch, but I think it's possible because I also don't think that those other guys that you saw are going to have the monster years that people think they will have, so Brady won't have as far to go.
And I don't think Brady's going to have that monster year that people think he is going to have. My one word is deficit. Coupled with the fact I don't think he's going to have that huge year, it's too big of a deficit to overcome, to give these guys a head start, to put up some numbers. Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, Andrew Luck are guys who are going to have some big...
what's your one word,
I said
Max?
Deficit.
Oh, I didn't see that.
He doesn't listen to me sometimes.
I listened.
Sometimes
I care.
The deficit will be too large to catch up. He'll fall off those guys, and we'll go in there. Now, we saw the schedule for the Patriots as well, and I know you thought it's pretty agreeable. I think it's pretty challenging. I think you have some really good defenses you're going to be going up against, and I think there's a dynamic involved as a quarterback when you're coming in. We haven't really seen it when you're suspended 4 games. I just don't see him guns blazing when he comes in week 5.
How so? How so?
I just think you want to. You already have a body of work. You have a sample size of 4 games you're going to build on. Whatever that is going to dictate, I think, about how you manage these games going forward. If you're 4-0, then you just protect that win at all costs. You don't have to be the gunslinger, which we saw him do a little bit there.
Max, he's about himself at this point as much as he is about the Patriots. And you don't think that Josh McDaniels is going to give him free reign to do whatever he wants? Because the one thing that you don't want to do with a Tom Brady or another dynamic quarterback is give them a reason. He's saying he's got his reason.
To play well enough
he's got
to
his
win.
reason.
You don't have to go for 400 yards, which he's proven to be very successful. That's why he is not the highest pick fantasy quarterback in many fantasy drafts for that.
They don't have a running game. They've never had a running game. It's always been the 6-yard out. That's your running game if you're Tom Brady. And he's a guy now at this stage, he wants to be considered the greatest quarterback of all time. So if he can come back after a 4-game suspension and win the league MVP, well, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Why is he making it about himself then? He's 38, maybe his last chance at the winner. You make it about this team thing.
He's going to be going ham. Come on. You know that. This is the Patriots. They're going to be running
Thank you.
If he had 16 games, then you could do that. But you have a smaller sample where you can do that in 12. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, and I looked at that list of MVP candidates, the best player in football, the most valuable player in football was not on that list. And I'm tired of the quarterbacks getting all the rave. Von Miller was the best player in football last year, and now that he's got his contract, he should
playoffs last
He was
year.
the best. He was the most influential player all season. He was a quarterback on the
in the
defense.
last 2 games. He
should be wedged in there. I don't know where between Cam Newton and Andrew Luck. But that's a guy we have to have more vision as NFL fans to see the entire body of work and say quarterbacks are the most important position. Von Miller was the most important position of a player on a team that won the Super Bowl. He's got to be on that.
Okay, I think we're going to see this year, and let's remember, let's have this tape, that if the Broncos can't get quarterback play, and I understand what happened last year.
Who is their quarterback?
Exactly, Mark Sanchez. Is that where you're
going to go with? Peyton Manning. Who was their quarterback last year when Peyton Manning?
But you're not going to get home field advantage if you don't get to 12 wins. And you're going to get to 12 wins with Mark Sanchez? I don't think so. So Von Miller is not going to be the MVP if you can't lead a team to at least 12-4. It's just not going to happen.
They didn't need home field advantage in Super Bowl 50. We'll see. We'll see.
Did you really just say that?
Yeah.
You understand there's no home field.
I know, but they didn't have it. They didn't have it, and they won the Super Bowl, and they were impressive against the team that nobody could beat all season long.
Can we put that on a quote panel? He said they did not need home field advantage in Super Bowl 50.
It's an accurate statement.
Accurate, yes. Silly, yes.
I'm okay. I think the AFC is up for grabs with regard, not to get off Tom Brady, but I think there's a position where the Broncos could have that dominant guy. He's just on the other side of the ball. Let's recognize it.
I think Brady's going to come out and ball, but if we're looking at the quarterbacks, I know you want to go beyond, but usually it is a quarterback, right?
It is.
Aaron Rodgers
I just throwing it out there.
Cam has Kelvin Benjamin, so they could also have big numbers.
Good call. Florida State.
The Steelers will be good this year, but then if we're going for him airing it out, he does lose Martavis Bryant, he's suspended, and then Heath Miller's gone. So
and he's got the big running back. He's going to
Le'Veon Bell's back, so if they're...
And let's be honest, if we're looking at the macro, as you like to say, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to have a little bit of motivation, too.
That's the guy. That's my pick.
Brady.
Okay. That's my pick,
but maybe
realistically.
not because of what you think. Right now, he's not the most famous Rodgers in his family.
Oh, you're going the Bachelor.
Yes.
I'm still behind on my DVR.
Oh, sorry, Bachelorette. Clearly, did you watch the show?
If you watch Wednesdays on SportsCenter, we do a segment.
Oh, it's on tonight on ABC, I was just told.
Exactly. 8 p.m. on ABC, and then on Wednesday nights, me and Mina Kimes do a one-word segment on The Bachelorette. And right now, Jordan Rodgers, his younger brother, and we found out that they do not have a close relationship.
Yeah, they have beef. I saw that in a commercial.
They have big beef. And we'll find out more next Monday how big. Tonight's Monday.
One word on Bachelorette or Jordan Rodgers.
It's been an incredibly popular segment that we've been doing.
Yeah, but I think he's gonna ball out just because he had such a down year also, so a lot of people are doubting him.
I mean, if you want to look at the football aspect of it, sure. I think
I do. He did look pretty good on the red carpet with his girlfriend's beautiful Olivia Munn.
She was great in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. When you have kids, you go to all that stuff.
You got to prevent them from seeing that information and go, that movie's not out. That movie's not out till December, and then you extend it and they forget about it because I don't want to see that.
You have to feel very comfortable right now because we're 7 layers away from the topic that we started. That's classic Max.
Fired.
Classic Max.
So breaking news: Aaron Rodgers and his brother have beef.
They have beef.
Stay tuned.
We'll see it tonight.
It all.
Yeah, it's on tonight's episode, and then we'll cover it on Wednesday
for the post game.
Yes,
it's you.
It's awesome.
No one trick pony. All right. Eagles head coach Doug Peterson told the Philly News that if they had to play this week, Carson Wentz would be inactive because he is third on the Eagles depth chart at quarterback. Max, one word on Wentz.
My one word is luxury. In many sports, soccer, one of my passions, you can have a luxury player. Baseball, you can have a luxury player. A guy you can use in some spots there that you can pay a lot of money, commit a lot to. This is the NFL. There is no room for luxury players. You need guys who can play. And if Carson Wentz is going to be inactive week 1 and likely maybe miss this whole season because they have so much money tied up into Sam Bradford for 2 years and Chase Daniel for 3 years, I don't see how he breaks that, which brings up the practical question. Why did you make the trade to move up? There will be This is the thing with the trade that drove me crazy. They went up 2-2 not knowing who the Rams were going to pick at 1.
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
That tells me that's really not their guy. It is their guy, but we'll take whoever's left over.
No, I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they committed all of that. They say, this is a guy we really like, that we're going to trade up a 3rd and a 4th round pick, then a future 1st round pick, and a future 2nd round pick. Why not wait and use those picks? Because you're this close to being good enough to win, at least in that division. You can be competitive. And now, with those picks, you could have got an offensive lineman, could have got a cornerback, could have got maybe a running back, and filled out the coffers of that team to win now, because it's built to win now. But now you're waiting on this guy who you could draft the guy in 2 years.
All right, with the new salary structure, you can take the gamble on picking this guy in the top 2 picks. My one word is validation for myself.
Oh, okay.
Because I said this guy is not.
Sensing a theme here on this show, Max. I'm getting it.
Looking out for number 1.
Yeah,
you're darn right.
Right here.
I said all along this guy is not a legitimate NFL quarterback. Now, I don't think Sam Bradford is either. And when he tried to sit out and said, I want to be traded, you're making $18 million a year, over $20 million guaranteed. You ought to be thanking your lucky stars they gave you this contract. The fact that Chase Daniel, he has shown he's the best backup quarterback in the league, which is why he's making $7 million a year.
Fair enough.
So with the new way they do salaries, you can afford to take a guy. You're only making about $4 or $5 million a year and sit him just like Jimmy Garoppolo in New England and not play him. But at this point, to not have him at least as the backup is validation that I've always thought that he's just right now not good enough to be that high of a pick.
You can be patient with him, and he could be a good quarterback. Let's assume he comes out as a solid NFL quarterback. You have sacrificed a chance to win here by trading all those picks. There will be other good quarterbacks coming down the pike in future years. If he's not a good quarterback, then that's another discussion. And another discussion is this whole hullabaloo about Sam Bradford not liking the situation.
But you know, teams lose their mind when it comes to getting quarterbacks. You have to have one, because if you don't, you're going to be a team that hopes to win on defense.
They don't know.
You can't do
they
that.
don't know if they have one.
You
They're not going to
have
find
more
out
than
this
one
year.
quarterback. You don't have a quarterback.
Amen.
True story.
That's true.
Who's going to start? Who do you guys think if you had to guess?
Well, I think you got to go Bradford.
It's going to be Bradford.
He's the $18 million guy.
I think, but to your point about Chase Daniel, I think the gap is pretty close, but they've given themselves so many options that they could play at quarterback. The problem is now they are very thin at other positions. In a division was won by the Redskins out of nowhere that I think they could be very competitive in. They were right there 2 years ago, and now I think because you don't fill those positions that you need to, it's going to be problematic.
All right.
My word is Trey, third on the depth chart. I'm really having fun with this game.
Or no depth chart.
You're getting really good.
Yeah, I'm trying, folks. All right, let's get to another quarterback situation up for grabs. The standoff between Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Jets, it's been going on for months. So the Jets' reported offer of 3 years, $24 million has been on the table, but Fitzpatrick has rejected it. The Jets are a little over a week from opening training camp and would lead on Geno Smith if no deal is reached with Fitzy. Coach, one word for the Jets-Fitzpatrick situation.
I'm going to steal one of the words that you just used in your lead-in right there, and that is standoff. Because at some point, somebody has to stop this standoff. Ryan Fitzpatrick is right for asking for more than $7 million a year. But we forget that at one point in Buffalo, he was given a 3-year, $30 million deal, and he went right down the toilet. So at this point, do they need him? Yes. Geno Smith, that scares me if I'm a Jets fan, because we've seen what he's done before. But the standoff between these two guys, or between this guy and the team, it's got to stop before training camp gets here, because Fitzpatrick looks like he's a guy that is willing to sit out if he doesn't make more than Chase Daniel in Philadelphia. You got to stop.
My one word is sand. Get out of the sand. Get on terra firma, and let's get this ironed out. If you're right, he could maybe afford to sit out a year. I don't think he can do that. The money is close. We're getting late in the game right now, where he may not miss a season. He'll have to come in somewhere because everyone has their quarterback, with the exception of maybe a Denver, I would think might be an option. But they haven't rushed into to get Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think the ball is in the Jets' court. They have a guy in Geno Smith who's been erratic, still has enough talent where you say this could be our guy going into it, and they have some other young options around it.
I don't think Denver can afford to bring him in at the number that he wants to play at.
They want $12 million for the first year for the Jets, which is Fitzpatrick. That's great. He wants 15. I don't think you can wiggle too much about. Maybe you can get a little bit more if you're the Jets. It's probably worthwhile to not have to deal with this day in, day out. But Fitzpatrick has to come down to their offer.
It goes back to you have to have a guy. And just like the Broncos folded on Von Miller, the Jets are going to fold on Ryan Fitzpatrick. Because there is no way.
Two different players.
There's no way they go through another season with Geno Smith as your starting A option at quarterback.
Fitzpatrick faded there late in the year when they needed him.
He's their best option.
He's their best option, but the second option is not that further off from the first option.
My one word for Geno is Unimpali. Okay? I'm just kidding. No, seriously, though, can they rely on him if Geno's the guy?
I don't think you can, but I don't think it is the worst option out there. This is a talented team.
Are you serious?
It's not the worst option. As long as
give me a worse option.
That's a stretch.
Give me a worse option.
That's stretch.
I think they have enough good players around them, some good runners, some okay
give
receivers,
me a worse
good defense.
option.
I can't think of the top of my head, but there's some worse. Mark Sanchez, how's that? Who would you rather have?
I never liked the fact that they picked Geno Smith to begin with. Because right now you got me playing in my own head.
Pick your poison, I think. Although I think both those guys might have something. Although you would tend to stay away from either one as a starter.
I think Fitzpatrick's going to be the starting quarterback.
There's no. I think this whole situation really puts the micro focus on the fact that if you don't have a guy, you've got no shot to go to the playoffs.
The Broncos did okay without much quarterback play.
Yeah, really.
One word for your first day on First Take. Putting you on the spot here.
My one word, I think, is refreshing.
Oh.
That would be my one word. I've always wanted to work with you.
Yeah, you've been great. You've been fantastic.
I appreciate that.
What's your one word?
Seamless. And to what Molly said in the commercial breaks, because we spend so much time together, it's not like we have to figure out what we're going to say. We kind of can finish each other's sentences, so it made it pretty easy for us.
So you just ruined our entire dynamic at the end of the
That's a positive.
My word for you, too, is chemistry. And I had another one. I had a backup, brothers. Because you guys are like two brothers, which makes it fun. Thanks so much for listening to the pod. You can watch First Take Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on ESPN2. And the new era of First Take with Max Kellerman kicks off 1 week from today, Monday, July 25th. Have a great night.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Yesterday, Cliff Sora shared a top 10 list of hot fusion restaurants, a vegan gluten-free mashup recipe, and a podcast featuring organic food trends. Oh, TMI, too much internet information. That's oversharing. Cliff, Geico has something worth sharing with your friends. Like how on Geico.com you could save hundreds on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim. Gluten-free info that's easy to swallow. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Corey Seager and the Dodgers head to Washington, D.C. to face Bryce Harper and the NL East leading Nationals.
Wow! The other way for Corey Seager. That's some kind of power.
Coverage begins Wednesday at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio.